Richard's out of town. Chris Hussey, my son-in-law's with me today, and instead of Bristol baby, I guess it was LARSON baby.
Someone said after the race it was a blue-collar type of race, and that's the kind of race that we remember at Bristol back in the day.
If they hadn't been the stages, they would have probably been only 2 cars in the lead lap.
He reads the track. You know, he read the rubber early on, and he's the first one that went 100% and drove away from him because he said he could read the rubber, that it wasn't doing what it did the day before.
Okay. Richard's out of town. Chris Hussey, my son-in-law's with me today, and instead of Bristol baby, I guess it was LARSON baby. What'd you see, Chris?
Yeah, no, it's he definitely had a dominant car. Gosh, he could drive it anywhere. He drove through the middle a lot of times. He, he could diamond the corner. He could go to the top. He could turn down the hill and drive up under him. I mean, it was just. Yeah, it was his day. It was his day. That's rare in this sport, but it was his day.
Yeah, we hadn't seen it. Well, back in the days of Pearson and Petty, Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, and Cale Yarborough, they dominated a lot of them, but I don't believe there's been one dominated more than what he done.
No, it was someone said after the race it was a blue-collar type of race, and that's the kind of race that we remember at Bristol back in the day, with a handful of cars on the lead lap, and people just, not a lot of crashing, not a lot of stuff. They made laps, and it is what it is. And as I mentioned to someone earlier today, I said that was the racing we used to have at Bristol, and the next race that they would build 20,000 more seats and fill them.
Yeah. I don't know what this one will do to the next race. Okay, we got a weekend off, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. But I guess the people that was really fooled was the people on what the tires were going to do, Chris. Because in Saturday's qualifying and practice, they wore out in 25, 30, 40 laps maybe.
And they had those issues, last year, and they keep saying it was the temperature. It's a 16 to a 20-degree temperature swing made that difference in the tires wearing to the tires not wearing, and that's not something I remember either.
I don't remember it either. That's like the difference of wearing a coat and not putting a coat on it with the weather. But it had to fool the tire engineers, the drivers, the engineers, everybody concerned with the race, because the way I counted, LARSON used 5 sets of tires, counting the ones he started on. And NASCAR gave him an extra set Sunday morning because they was expecting the worst, and it did not happen. But, yeah, I've never seen a car, And the pit crew was great. He never was challenged. I guess the only drama was when the 12 car pitted in the middle of a stage and could stay out and put everybody down a lap or two.
Yeah.
Stayed out and put everybody down a lap for a few laps. And I know he was hoping for a caution.
Yeah.
And knowing the way things are, they'd have probably had to have been a loose elephant on the racetrack to have a caution. But and I don't know whether that would even change the winner or not, because he'd have took the wave around, and I don't know. It certainly was a dominant race and perfectly executed, And of course, every time he made a pit stop, Chris, he had cars in between him and the second place car, which give his pit crew a certain advantage. But he drove hard all day because he hit the wall with about 10 laps to go. And if I'd have, oh, Lord, I can't imagine what the crew chief thought.
Yeah, that just shows you how he runs every lap. Every lap's qualifying lap with Kyle Larson. And whenever he run the wall, I was like, I just can't imagine what, as a spotter, I'm sure I would have been screaming at him.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. But, he got outrun Friday night, so he's not totally Superman that can fly in orbit. But he certainly dominated the Xfinity race on Saturday, and I hope the fans enjoyed it. I'd like to see more people in the grandstand, for the race, and maybe when we go back the next time, people go back and hope he gets beat or something. But, if they hadn't been the stages, they would have probably been only 2 cars in the lead lap.
Yeah, it would have been
And
a lot
maybe
like last
he
time.
might have been in a lap by himself. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the only thing you can say if there would have been stages would somebody have cut a tire or wore a tire out and created a caution.
Just about everybody stayed right where they qualified. The 47 fell quite a bit because he started on the outside pole. The 77 had the problem on pit road. I felt sorry for him.
No,
he was an
car.
awful good car.
Yep.
And they had to have a wheel loose, and that had to happen to the 42 car. And how lucky was they, Chris, that tire didn't hit nobody on pit road?
That could have been really bad, especially if it had even gotten behind pit wall. And I know these wheels and tires are much lighter than what they used to be, but still, it's a projectile. That's dangerous, and it's happened, and it's always happened. But I still don't like to see it. That could have been bad.
But Richard brings it up so much. It only happens in NASCAR. It seemed like I watched some of the IndyCar race. I watched some of the Formula One race. Of course, they got a lot more crew members and everything, but they don't leave wheels loose. So I wish they could research that a little bit more, and that would make it safer for the pit crews and everything. But
they can't make the penalty much harsher, but maybe they need to. But I agree, it's one time is one time too many.
Well, it wasn't bad on the 42 because they said it happened on pit road, and it's different if the tire gets all the way out to on the racetrack. I think it's 2 laps if it gets out on the racetrack, but if it happens on pit road, it's only started at the end of the longest line. And I don't know who could have been in Larson's car that could have done that, and I don't know if he could have took another car and done what he done. It's just so many ifs that's in the racing, and it gets back to Bristol baby or Larson baby at Bristol.
He's good. He reads the track, and he read the rubber early on, and he's the first one that went 100% and drove away from him because he said he could read the rubber, that it wasn't doing what it did the day before. And that maybe that's coming from dirt track racing, I don't know, but it's smart racing. He's looking at the surface to see if it's taking rubber. He's looking at the marbles up top. He's reading the room, so to speak, and took advantage of it.
Yeah, and quick as he read it, he checked out. Okay, we got a weekend off for the Rabbit this weekend, and they save fuel, big bunch of cars, and if I go, I don't know, I doubt it. I might be watching it on television. I'll have a hard time picking the 2 cars I pull for real hard in a pack, and everybody I talk to has the same thing. So they're going to Talladega in 2 weeks.
Yeah, traditionally, last handful of races, last couple of years, the Fords are really, really fast, even though sometimes it seems they struggle to figure out how to win. But certainly for qualifying and speed-wise, the Fords are really good there.
Yeah, but then when the race starts, everybody's seem like they're in the same boat, and they'll probably have 38 or 39 cars, and probably 99% of them thinks they got a chance to win in that race, and they have at Talladega.
Yeah, it's a little different whenever you're sitting there watching them at 2 to 3 seconds off the pace, saving fuel and running 50% throttle, and it's like that's different, but it's don't hate the player, hate the game.
I hope I don't hear save the fuel. Okay. As this thing was being built, a NASCAR official told me that we got to keep 5 lug nuts. And somewhere down the line, he got overruled, and I ain't going to go no further than that. I don't know. I've put 5 on as long as my tire-changing career lasted.
Well, as Dale alluded to earlier, it doesn't seem to happen in other motorsports, other forms, other series. And we saw them come off whenever we had 5. But obviously the odds of just 1 is a lot higher if you only have 1. But it's not that single lug nut's fault. It's back to trying to be fast, trying to do, just be as fast as you can. But at the end of the day, it's percentage-wise, every weekend, 99% put on and get put on tight. So it's not the design, it's not the fault, and they just got to be better on pit road.
Of course, we had a jack to fail yesterday, according to what I've seen on the 77, because he went and got another jack. Is that right?
Yes.
So sometimes it's equipment more than the personnel.
Yeah.
Keep getting viewers on television, keep bringing sponsors, and keep try to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, obviously I don't think anyone has the answer. They've invested a lot of money in this thing, certainly the car owners, and the car owners bought into it because over the long haul it's supposed to save them money. But gosh, if you got equal cars that have a lot of downforce and are easier to drive, then they're all going to run the same speed. First, I think you just got to take away downforce and add horsepower. And so many people have said that we know that's possible without a ton of expense. You just can't do it in the middle of a season.
I'm going to let Chris answer that. I'll just say leave Larson at home.
I don't know if asphalt would fix it. And, of course, I was there during the period when they didn't make asphalt that would withstand the pressure of these cars, and asphalt came up 2 or 3 races in a row, so they put down concrete. But I would love to see it go back to asphalt. And then, of course, a tire. Tire management for me is fun to watch because it puts the driver aspect back into it, even the team aspect of how much camber you run and how much air pressure you run. And I think our tires have been too good for a long time for those guys to run at 100% all the time. I like tire management races because it puts some emphasis on the setup and the driver and all the above. And I'd like to go back to asphalt and have a not so good tire.
But Chris, you're mentioning asphalt, but they also doctoring the concrete with some kind of mixture.
Yeah, they put down the traction control, and I'm not a big believer in all that. Just like when they send the vacuums and the blowers out at every stage to clean the track, that's not the way. That's not the way we come along. That's back to driver reading the track, moving around on the track, using that area instead of. But gosh, used to they didn't clean the track almost the whole weekend.
Yeah. Certainly a different world.